Hello. So today is the first time I put on a coat for these walk with me's. And I must admit, I'm not that happy about that. But at the same time, it made me realize that maybe instead of talking about what I was going to talk about on this walk with me, I talk about the importance of change and how I've noticed that even in my whole life. Like, as much as change is hard and seasons are hard, and it's about saying goodbye to something and hello to something else. I actually think change is such an important and like life learning lesson, and the seasons are there to help us. And what I have noticed about change is just how, even though it's a pain sometimes, like especially when you're going from summer to fall, even though I love fall, but it's just that kind of like knowing that winter is on its way, the longer days, the longer nights, sorry, the shorter days, the less light. There's something a little bit like sad and nostalgic about it. And yet I know that change has always been an important part of my life. And actually, I know that at the end of summer, I'm not appreciating it as much as I did at the first days of summer. You know, the really hot days or the way the wind feels on your skin. At the end of summer, I've almost stopped noticing it. I've kind of taken it for granted. And so when fall comes around, I start realizing I'm going to miss that. And actually, the wonderful thing is, like, since fall goes up and down, every once in a while you get a really hot day again, and it makes you really appreciate it. And so I realize that change and seasons sometimes make me appreciate what I have or what I've had in a completely different way. And I also know the importance of actually resting and taking time for ourselves, being somebody who, wants to always act, wants to always like be doing something. Our society also seems to tell us that that is important or a good way of being, and I find that actually having to rest is an important part, and to remember that things go in cycles, and that yes, there's moments where we do and we have like abundance like in the summer and it's all fruitful, but then just like a tree, the tree actually needs the rest. And I read somewhere, actually it was a study, I then saw that maybe this study wasn't true, but in a way I felt like it didn't matter whether the study was true or not. It really just made me feel like I understood the importance of the word wintering, as they called it. So they talked about how the big trees in California and in Western Canada, those huge, beautiful trees, supposedly there was like a group of scientists that came in and actually kind of injected with them with something so that they wouldn't go through winter, and that they would just continuously be like with trees, leaves all the time. And supposedly after like a year or two, the trees ended up dying because they needed the winter. They needed that moment of rest, that moment where it looks like nothing is happening, but actually a lot is happening. And again, I don't know if that study is true, if they really did that to the trees, if they ended up killing all those beautiful trees. I really hope not. But the message from that video really stuck with me. And it reminded me of the importance of my own wintering, the importance of my own cycles, the importance of the moments when I actually am not productive, where I'm not like full of energy like in the summer. And that actually there is something very cozy about hibernating. And actually it's something I look forward to. I love, in the winter there are some really amazing benefits. Like, for example, I know that it's a moment where I don't always feel guilty if I'm not outside. And there's something really cozy about being home. I love lighting candles. I love making soups and kind of really hearty dishes that I can't make in the summer because it's way too hot and I'm not in the mood for those things. So I think it's all about just learning to accept the changes, the seasons in our lives, the seasons that are actually physical seasons, but also just know that when we are going through some of these maybe wintering seasons for ourselves, they actually have a purpose. Even though we don't have to have purposes for everything either. But what I mean is, though, that the rest, the recuperation, the moments where we're not actually building something, the moments when we're might even be lost, um, are important. I know that, like, I love when I see trees in the winter. It brings me a lot of, I don't know, trust in something bigger, because they look dead. They look absolutely dead, and you can't imagine that they will have leaves again. And I'm always so impressed when spring rolls around and all of a sudden the trees start blooming, and out of nowhere almost, it seems that they have these buds, and then all of a sudden those buds explode, and the street that was completely bare in the winter now is full of green and bushy leaves. It's beautiful. And I want to remember the same thing about me and my phases. And sometimes this isn't just about work, it's also about our spiritual practices, what we go through. You know, sometimes we're in a period of spiritual, like, kind of like blossoming and summer, where everything seems like it's an expansion. And then there's also moments where all of a sudden we feel like, oh my gosh, like, what is all this happening? Like, what is actually all this for? Like, you feel like you did all this like progress, and then all of a sudden it all seemed kind of pointless, and you kind of go through a new cycle. So yeah, that was my thoughts. It wasn't at all what I was going to talk about today, but I just thought that it was kind of good, because, like, if you look on the street, there are all these leaves now. Everything's starting to fall. I'll show some videos of what's on my walk today, as always, at the end. But also just to be gentle as we change, as we go through our different seasonal changes. I know that also, like, I personally have been exhausted recently, and I know that when the seasons change, that is actually something that happens. I think my body is just getting ready, maybe to have a little less light, needing that more, cozy hibernation. And so yeah, just maybe be gentle with ourselves when we're crossing these moments, and also just to remember to let ourselves have the cycles without necessarily knowing what's going to come up, but to trust that when the spring will come again, you will be able to make and have amazing leaves again. But you have to trust in the way. You have to trust the winter. And so on that, I'm wishing you lots of love and lots of laughter during this wonderful fall season that's beginning. And I'll see you next video. Thanks so much for watching.